Every single day, millions of us recite a particular verse from the opening chapter of the Quran, Al-Fatiha. It's so familiar, but what if those familiar words hold a blueprint we've just never fully unpacked? Well, let's dive in and see what's inside.
And that's really the core question we're digging into today, isn't it? We're going to deconstruct this single, powerful line to see if its true meaning goes way beyond what we might just assume at first glance.
And here it is, the verse we're putting under the microscope. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Now, it seems pretty straightforward, right? But believe me, each part of this declaration has layers upon layers of meaning. So we're going to break it down piece by piece, starting with that very first word.
Okay, so let's start with ayyaka, which translates to you alone. Now, this isn't just any old pronoun. In Arabic, putting this word right at the very beginning of the sentence, that's a huge deal. It creates this powerful emphasis, and we're about to see what that really implies.
This is where we get into something called linguistic exclusivity. See, the word ayyaka isn't just a statement. It's a full-on declaration. By putting you alone first, it immediately just cuts off any other possibility. Any other potential object of worship, any other source of help, they're all out. It's a conscious choice to establish one and only one singular focus.
And look at this comparison. It lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got this singular loyalty, this singular obedience and hope, all directed to one divine source. But on the other side, you have divided devotion. Now, the source material points out that this could mean, ancient tribal gods, but it also points to some very modern idols, things like seeking favors from worldly powers, or even the worship of our own ego, that constant voice of me, I, and myself.
All right, let's move on to the next key term here, nabudu, which comes from the root word abd, or servant. And this is where things get really deep because this concept goes way beyond just simple ritual acts.
So the crucial point here is that being an abd isn't just about, say, praying or fasting. The source explains it as a complete state of existence. It's a total package deal of submission, unwavering loyalty, conscious obedience, and sincere devotion. It's really a lifestyle, not just a checklist of actions.
And, to really get what servitude is, it helps to know what it isn't. The source material points out these 4 huge obstacles. First, there's shirk, which is associating partners with God. Then there's kibr, or arrogance, that refusal to submit. After that, we have jahala, which is ignorance, where you disobey but you don't even realize it. And finally, there's self-service, which is basically when we just follow our own desires instead of submitting to God.
Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. The source argues that this whole principle of exclusive servitude, of having just one master, isn't only a personal spiritual thing. It's actually presented as an analogy for understanding entire societal structures.
This Quranic verse just sets the stage perfectly. It asks us to picture it, a person being pulled in a million different directions by a bunch of different bosses, versus someone who has one clear source of direction. This analogy then becomes the lens to look at different systems of governance.
Okay, so let's walk through the analysis that our source material presents. It draws a pretty sharp contrast between 2 modern governance models. On one hand, it offers a critique of some aspects of modern democracy, arguing that leaders often come out of popularity contests and might end up primarily serving capitalist interests. On the other hand, it analyzes the Chinese model as a system where a single party develops experts from within, with the main goal being focused national development. And here's the connection the source makes. It suggests that this one master principle is a lot like the historical Islamic political concept of khilafah, a single, unified government that was meant to be responsible for both the worldly and the spiritual prosperity of its people. Okay, so that was the first half. Now for the second part of the verse, and to you alone we ask for help. So when we ask for help, what are we really asking for? Well, at its core, it's a request for guidance, or hidayah. But what does that word actually mean?
And this is a really important quote from the source. Hidayah is not about force. It's an offer. It's a facilitation. It's this beautiful process of being shown the right path, being gently led in the right direction, and ultimately being helped to reach the final destination. It totally respects our free will.
And again, look at the difference here. Guidance is described as a continuous journey. It's like light and knowledge. Its opposite, misguidance, is described in all these powerful ways: spiritual blindness, a deviation of the heart, heedlessness, ignorance. It's that state of having eyes but not truly seeing.
Now, this is a really fascinating insight. The source suggests that an action like prayer, as important as it is, isn't the final checkbox for guidance.
Originally, it was a public sign of belonging, a declaration that you were part of a collective, standing together with a mission.
So when we start to put all these pieces together, the exclusive devotion, the comprehensive servitude, the call for guidance, you start to see a much, much bigger picture emerge. This verse transforms from just a personal plea into something way bigger.
So what's the bottom line? The verse is a blueprint for a collective movement. It's not just about my personal peace or my individual salvation anymore. It becomes a declaration of allegiance to a unified, destination-oriented mission that's meant for all of humanity.
And that really leaves us with a huge question to think about. As we reflect on these words, to you alone we worship, and to you alone we ask for help, the question we're left with is this: do we see our worship as a private act, something just for our own personal tranquility, or do we see it as a public pledge to a global collective mission? It's definitely something to think about.